I'd like to welcome all of you to the annual meeting of AltaGas Ltd., both those here today in person and those listening to our webcast. My name is Dennis Dawson, AltaGas Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary. Mr. David Cornhill, Chairman and CEO of AltaGas, will act as Chairman of the meeting. Mr. Cornhill has requested that I administer the formal part of these proceedings as well as act as Secretary of the meeting. Mr. Cornhill will then make his presentation. I'll now call the formal part of the annual meeting of the shareholders of AltaGas to order. Connor Doyle and Maureen Conway of Computershare will act as scrutineers. In order to expedite the meeting, I've asked certain shareholders to make certain motions at the appropriate times. Voting on motions shall be by a show of hands, where each person present and entitled to vote shall have one vote, unless a vote based on the number of votes attached to all outstanding shares entitled to be voted at the meeting is required, in which case a poll will be conducted, individual votes will be recorded, and totals in favor or against will be tallied by the scrutineers. I have before me a true copy of the notice of the annual meeting of the shareholders of AltaGas, together with the statutory declaration of Computershare as to the mailing of the notice of the annual meeting, together with the Management Information Circular and the form of proxy for the shareholders. The statutory declaration indicates that all documents were mailed within the time periods required by applicable legislation. I will file the statutory declaration with the minutes of the meeting. I've received the report of the scrutineers with respect to attendance at the meeting, which report states that 51,352,176 shares are in attendance, which represents 57.36% of shares outstanding. Therefore, I declare that a quorum is present for the annual meeting of the shareholders of AltaGas, and that the meeting is duly called and properly constituted for the transaction of business. I direct that the scrutineer's report on attendance be annexed to the minutes of the meeting. The first item of business is presentation by the directors of AltaGas of their annual report to shareholders, which report consists of the consolidated financial statements of AltaGas for the fiscal year ended December 31, 2011, and the auditor's report thereon. The consolidated financial statements, the auditor's report, and management's discussion and analysis are included in AltaGas's annual report that is mailed to shareholders of record on March 7, 2012. There are extra copies of the annual report available to shareholders on request and at the back of the room as well. In addition, a report with respect to the business of AltaGas will be provided after the conclusion of the formal part of the meeting. Is there any discussion regarding AltaGas's consolidated financial results? So we'll move on to election of directors. The next item of business is to consider the nominees standing for election as directors of AltaGas Ltd. The Board of Directors of AltaGas has fixed the number of directors to be elected at the meeting at 9. I declare the meeting open for nominations for the persons to be elected as directors of AltaGas, and ask Randy Toon to place the names of the persons nominated by management of AltaGas before the meeting.
I nominate David Cornhill, Catherine Best, Alan Edgeworth, Hugh Ferguson, Dale Gilbert, Robert Hodgins, Myron Canuck, David Mackey, and Neil McCrank.
Thank you, Randy. All of the nominees have filed their consents to act as a director of AltaGas. Are there any further nominations? I declare the nominations closed. Could I please have a motion that the persons nominated be the nominees for the directors of AltaGas?
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman. I second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Dave. There will be a ballot taken on this resolution. Each of the directors, or the shareholders, registered shareholders, as you came in, will have received a blue ballot. Each person present at the meeting is entitled to vote and should have marked on the ballot whether you're in favor of the resolution, or if you did not already do so when you entered the meeting, please raise your hand and get a blue ballot at this time. Thank you. The scrutineers will tabulate the results of the ballot, and we will report the results before the end of the meeting. On the appointment of the auditors, the next item of business is consideration of the appointment of auditors of AltaGas and the authorization of AltaGas to fix the remuneration of the auditors. Could I please have a motion to appoint Ernst & Young LLP as the auditors of AltaGas until the next annual meeting of the shareholders, or until a successor is appointed and that remuneration of such auditors be fixed by AltaGas? Now you can go, Debbie.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Debbie. There'll be a ballot taken on this resolution as well. each of the registered shareholders will have received a pink ballot as they came in. If you did not mark the ballot when you entered the meeting room, could you please raise your hand now and receive a pink ballot? Thank you. The scrutineers will tabulate the results of the ballot and will report the results before the end of the meeting. And since we're coming up fast on the end of the meeting, we'll now pause for a minute while the scrutineers tabulate those results and bring them forward to me so I can report them back to you. And then maybe we could get on to Mr. Cornhill's. I've got 2 slides yet to go. Oh, good. Oh, there we go. So we'll just wait on that for a second, and then we can let you get on to the exciting part of the meeting. That's right. Debbie suggests I read the forward-looking information slide since it's a masterpiece and it's well worth everyone paying attention to as they go forward. We'll just give Connor a minute or two to get that scrutineer's report up to me. Doing animals, but anyway, I'll just go see if I've got that report. I'll be right back. Sorry for the pause. We're just 1 more minute and we'll have that report on the ballot and then we'll be ready to go. Perhaps while I wait for that, I could introduce the directors who are present while we're waiting for that result. And if I could ask them to stand, this might be premature till we get the voting results, but I'm going to go out on a limb. If you could stand up for just a moment. Catherine Best is here. Myron Canick is here. David Mackey. Hugh Ferguson. Daryl Gilbert. Bob Hodgins. And Neil McCrank. Thank you. So then, yeah, let's do it again. I'll do it in alphabetical order. Yes, I spoke too fast. They said I talked too fast. Thanks very much, Connor. Thank you. No, not at all. So the results of the ballots have now been tabulated. And with respect to the appointment of directors, as a majority of the votes cast by persons entitled to vote on the motion are in favor of all directors, I declare it to be passed. On the appointment of auditors and fixing the remuneration, as a majority of the votes cast by persons entitled to vote on the motion are in favor, I declare it to be passed. Is there any further business to come before the meeting? As there's no further business, I'd like to call for a motion terminating the meeting.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman. I second the motion.
Thanks, Kent. Thanks, John. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Everybody gets to vote now. Thank you. Opposed, if any? I declare the motion carried and the formal part of the meeting at an end. I've introduced the directors now, and now I'd like to introduce Mr. David Cornhill, Chairman and CEO, who will now make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's what we just did, the agenda. And this is getting longer and the font's getting smaller and my eyes are getting worse. So forward-looking information, I think Chris Nixon's here from Stikeman Elliott. I saw him. If you have any questions about this, please talk to him. I think it was his handiwork or some of it. Just wanted to, we announced first quarter earnings today of 46 cents per share. It was a very strong quarter, and it was our best quarter for our operating business in the 18-year history of the company. A few other highlights. EBITDA was $92.5 million, net income $43.3 million, and funds from operations $75.5 million. A very strong quarter for the company, and probably a glimpse of what you'll expect to see later this year and into 2013. The outlook, we expect 2012 to be stronger than 2011, and clearly 2012 is setting the stage for some great years to follow, 2013 and 14, as we add our new projects as well as seeing organic growth in our businesses. Our vision has not changed. We want to be a leading North American energy infrastructure company focused in Canada, northern and western United States. And as you can see, really Western Canadian focus, but seeing increasing investment in the United States over time. I want to talk a little bit about natural gas supply. Everyone knows that there is a lot of supply out there and how dramatically it's changed over the last few years through horizontal drilling, fracking. Right now, the only way you make business in the gas business is produce liquids, and clearly our producers are focused on liquids rich, and we have met that with our Gordondale plant, our extraction facilities, to add value for producers. Also, we're seeing a lot of natural gas from solution gas from drilling at a number of our plants, both west of 4 and west of 5. Dry gas is basically in decline. No one's drilling. We used to see 1 or 2 wells a day in the dry area of west of 4. We're probably seeing 1 or 2 wells per month. At this time, dry gas is not economic. However, clearly, when gas prices move up, there is a huge resource west of 4 in dry gas. We expect to see relatively flat production in the West Canadian Basin over the next couple of years. On the demand side, we are seeing increasing demand for natural gas in North America. Power generation, the numbers I'm hearing somewhere between 4 and 7 BCF additional gas being burnt in power. Clearly far more economic than coal. We're seeing a lot of industrial growth as well. Petrochemicals are back, and a lot of the industries that have moved off the continent are looking to come back with the cheap natural gas. CNG is becoming quite active. We're quite active in Nova Scotia with CNG trucking. We're looking at a number of other CNG opportunities in Alberta for fleets as well as in British Columbia. LNG is also used, seen as a fuel of choice for long-haul truckers as well, and seeing growth in that. The big wild card is LNG export, whether it's at the Gulf or on the West Coast. And clearly, 2015 timeframe, we could start seeing significant gas moving offshore through LNG. I think the demand may surprise us in terms of how quickly demand grows, but the question is, when will that demand meet the supply, and when will we see a price reaction? We're expecting a modest increase through pricing through 2014, with the potential once LNG exports become active to see price increases, but nowhere going back to the heydays of $8 to $10 MCF. We think the resource is just too large to see that type of price increase. On the Alberta power market, we're predicting about a 3% load growth over the next 20 years, and that means that we need to add about 260 megawatts of new generation to keep up with the load growth. And when we look out for the next 10 years, we see about 2,200 megawatts of new generation capacity required to offset the growth plus all the retirements. There's a number of coal-fired retirements starting in 2017, and so we see significant new generation required. Mainly gas generation, we believe, will fill that void. This just shows you the Alberta reserve margin. Based on the solid growth in the Alberta economy, and we see shrinking reserve margins at least through 2015 before the Shepard plants come on with ENMAX. And this, we believe, will result in robust Alberta power markets for the foreseeable future. You can see the map here focused in North America, but by the end of this year, we will be 25% of our assets and cash flow will be coming from the U.S. A significant change in the company and growing rapidly as well in the U.S. We see a lot of good opportunities in the northern and western United States. We set out a plan in 2009 to grow the business, to more than double the business in that time frame through 2014. I'm happy to say by the end of this year we'll have met that target of doubling our business. We will then look to add another $1 billion worth of capital as the hydro projects come on in 2014 and 15. We're very pleased with meeting our target and looking to continue the growth of AltaGas into the future. This just shows you the EBITDA from our acquisitions and organic growth. This is on top of the approximately $250 million worth of EBITDA that we generate from our base business. And as you can see, the rapid growth with the utilities, the gas business, and Forest Kerr and Climate coming on in 2015, more than doubling our EBITDA from the current levels. Just a quick slide here. 2013, 60% of our earnings will come from regulated or contracted businesses, and that level is the same as we generated in 2011, which was about $280 million worth of EBITDA. So we have transformed the company over the last 3 years, growing the company, growing the stable earnings, and we see continued growth into the future. This just shows you the result of our strategic plan, moving the business from 2011, predominantly gas, power, then utilities, to by 2015, about a third each. And we think that's a great mix of our businesses and allows us to grow in any environment, low gas environments, high gas environments. We just see great opportunity to grow the business with this balanced portfolio. We have a special guest today here representing Cross Country Canada, Brian McKeever, and if Brian could stand. Brian is an incredibly talented athlete, and if you can put the example of me versus Brian, I might be able to keep up with him if I was on a skidoo. I'd probably fall off. He's collected probably more gold medals than I've collected gas plants. He was the first athlete in the world to qualify both for the Olympics and Paralympics in 2010 in Vancouver. We were out there at that time in a very impressive feat. I think in the Olympic Winter Games he won 3 gold medals in 2010. These athletes are incredible. The endurance, the training, the long hours with no one watching. It's just an incredible feat, and we are in awe of the accomplishments of Brian, and we're very proud to be a sponsor of the Canadian Cross Country team. We think it's important to create social value, and that means shareholder value, but it also means creating an environment that's safe for our employees to work at, creating an environment where they can have careers and reach their goals in terms of career goals, in terms of fair wages, and move forward. We also think it's important to give back to the community with STARS, cross country, and a number of other things that we sponsor. We've also been lucky to win a number of awards that are up here, and it's a recognition of our management team and the focus. We try to create social value. We're not perfect, but we work hard to do that, as well as it's really important to look long-term from environmental sustainability. And being in the energy business, we're focused on long-term sustainability. So thank you for coming this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Thank you for spending a little time with my board to keep them happy. Brian, it was nice of you to do that. And please recognize my directors told me to put this up in terms of return because it tends to keep shareholders happy. We saw the share price come up about 48%, but I can tell you that I believe today share price is grossly undervalued for the value of the company. And I'm not usually that outspoken, but clearly the strength of the growth over the next year, we're going to see over 200 million new EBITDA coming on stream, and another 100 to 150 over 2014-15. We think the shares are, I believe the shares are greatly undervalued, and I can tell you that I've been buying in the last offering, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But 1 year doesn't really tell a story. I don't think you can win in 1 year in the market, but over the last 10 years, we've been able to return 1,100% total return to our shareholders. I think this shows the commitment of the AltaGas team, who are currently employees and past employees, and the commitment to grow the company and deliver shareholder value to our shareholders. So I'd like to thank the employees for their hard work and hours and the late hours. A number of them were last night to get this presentation together and the press release this morning. So I'd just like to take time to thank you very much for your contributions to the company. I think they know how I play chess, and if you knock all the other pieces down, you usually end up winning. This just shows you, both from an EBITDA and operating income perspective, our performance. And we use these because during the history, we went from a trust, which was non-taxable, to back to a corporation, and these are more comparable numbers, taking out the different treatment for tax. But 2012, trailing 12 months, in first quarter of 2012, we've seen EBITDA of $293 million, funds from operation $240 million. We saw a payout ratio of 48%, and trailing 12-month operating income of just under $200 million. Even through the worst downturn in the economy in 2008 and 9, you can see that we were able to deliver very stable income and EBITDA. Shows our capital structure. At the end of the Q1, we're about 52% debt and 48% equity, even though the graph adds up to 101. I always check those things. So. We have long-term maturities at 5.2% and very strong balance sheet. We just issued an 8-year MTN, which is our longest, out to 2020 earlier this month, and the coupon was just over 4%. Something that astounded me that this $200 million MTN was 10 times oversubscribed. A great job with our Treasury group. We think we have some very strategic assets and very well situated for the LNG development. As you can see, we currently have the only pipeline that goes to Kitimat in Prince Rupert. There is expandability opportunities there. We have our Forest Kerr projects north that will deliver renewable power down to the LNG opportunities, which is critical for the BC government, as well as significant opportunities to expand our Blair Creek plant, which we're expanding up to 80 million a day, looking at some additional expansions at Younger, Gordondale coming on stream later this year. So we see a lot of opportunity to be realized by AltaGas with LNG development. We've estimated that, including power, gas plants, pipelines, and LNG facilities, that over $35 billion will be spent over the next 7 to 10 years on LNG development in British Columbia. And we will be there for part of that. This, even though I'm not an engineer, I do like construction. So this is the fun part for me, pictures of construction and seeing what's going on. I can tell you that our Gordondale facility, the majority of the equipment is on site, and all major equipment will be on site in the next couple of months. Just to get the scale of this project, it's a $250 million gas plant. We have about 170 workers currently on site that will have 130 kilometers of control and electrical cabling in this plant. We'll have significant heavy loads coming to the plant in terms of equipment. The largest was somewhere around 200,000 pounds, and that's about 1,400 people, except if they're me, there'll probably be about 50 people. And that the storage, we have storage for liquids at this plant, which is 3 million liters of storage for liquids production at this plant, or 1,500,000 2-liter milk cartons, in terms of give you some scale of how the size of this plant. Gathering lines are 16 inches, and it's just a tremendous plant. I think we have brought equipment from the U.S. and from Canada, mainly sourced. Younger facility, we're looking at debottlenecking and expanding our Septimus pipeline in BC. It's the only fractionation plant. It's the only deep cut plant in British Columbia, and we see significant opportunities as the Montney gas expands and as gas moves to the west coast to supply LNG facilities. Currently, the Harmattan plant is currently over 100 workers on site. Just to give you a scale of project as well, we've had to source the equipment from Canada, U.S., Asia, and Europe. Similar size of equipment, slightly larger, have to be brought to this plant and lifted. This is a fully operational plant while we're doing this construction, about $170 million. And I can tell you there's no small feat doing construction in a plant that's fully operational. The other thing I'd like to highlight about Harmattan plant is that when we acquired this plant, we have seen the raw gas increase by 20%, and we're expecting another 15% through 2013. And by 2013, this plant will be processing over 400 million cubic feet a day, and that's more than all our field gathering processing facilities are processing in this one plant, Harmattan. That's how important this plant is to us. Forest Kerr, meeting the clean needs. We're seeing it in service in mid-2014. It'll start out with $100 million of annualized EBITDA growing. We see the capacity factor 55 to 60%. as everyone knows, 60-year EPA, BC Hydro fully indexed. It is on time, actually slightly early, and within the construction cost structure. Claymont Volcano, we expect to have the environmental permits this year. It'll add another 30 million EBITDA growing from there. 2015, we'll begin construction on Claymont later this year, and as well, total capital for these two facilities is approximately $300 million. This is why Forest Kerr is such a great project. As you can see, the capacity factor is 55 to 60, but we just have huge surplus of water in this facility. So hydrology is not a significant risk. Most hydro projects build to maximum flow capacity. We're taking about a third of the water that we could take out of this river in terms, so very high probability of meeting all our capacity factors and very solid resource. As I've said before, if BC Hydro looked at creating a dam here, and it would be an 800 megawatt dam at Forest Kerr in terms of the size and scale of the resource. A few pictures, and this shows the intake area, and I might try this. I don't usually do. This is the Iskut River, Forest Kerr River coming in. The intake right here, and a tunnel 3 kilometers down here to the powerhouse. Water will, and see if I pay attention, David Harris will correct me. Coming in here, here's Sluiceway, and we put coffer dams to prevent as the river rises in the spring, so we can continue work on the intake. Just to give you a scale, you can see the size of equipment, cranes here, some of the trucks, but this is equivalent to about 4 square city blocks that we're currently working on here. So that gives you the scale of the operation, and quite very impressive. Next slide. Everyone needs their own cement facility. This is our cement facility here for our Forest Kerr operation. Also will supply Volcano Claymont, and also will help supply the NTL, any concrete needs in the northern NTL. So we have that up and operating, and currently pouring concrete in the inlet area. We're going to have a poll on what this is, but this is where we bring the wires for the transmission wires up from the powerhouse. It'll be about a 4-meter diameter shaft that will bring it up to the surface. Powerhouse is about 200 meters below grade here, and that will then go into the transmission line and transformers. So just a picture, and you can see, I believe right there is the camp location. Just another picture of the inlet. Iskut water will come in here, settle, slow down, and then go down 100 meters to the powerhouse from the tunnel. The tunnel is about 3 kilometers long. Very impressive piece of engineering going on there. Next is you can see I like these, so I've got a lot of these. Just another better view of the tunnel. The tunnel that we have here is 10 by 10 meters, so give you ability. And David was telling us that the trucks can actually turn around in that tunnel and come out forward. In other tunnels, they have to back out, but just to scale, our big trucks can turn around, so the productivity is actually increased in the blasting and mining of the tunnel excavation. This is my favorite picture. This is sometimes how I feel. This is a picture of the scale of our powerhouse, and just gives you a view of what size of scale, and that's 100 meters underground. Look at our utility business. Over the last few months, less than 6 months, we've added $1.4 billion worth of utility assets, the SEMCO acquisition that we expect to close in Q3, the PNG acquisition that we closed in November, and we see significant growth in our utility businesses. We see over the next about $100 million a year in spending in our utility businesses over the next 5 years, and we're serving just over 500,000 customers in Canada and the U.S. SEMCO acquisition, we see a 10% accretive on cash flow and earnings. Next year, we see adding $130 million worth of EBITDA. All the funding for the SEMCO acquisition is in place, and we expect hearings in May of this year and expect to close sometime in mid Q3. We like to talk about milestones in this report card. We had a successful year in 2011. Fell short on one measure, our growth of rate base. We were 3% short on AUI and 2% short on Heritage. Try to do a little better this year, but a very strong year on Forest Kerr. All milestones were met, Climont as well, and made great strides moving all our major projects forward. Set some targets for this year. We expect to have the power tunnel 85% excavated by the end of the year. The headworks intake 75% done, and the powerhouse to be totally excavated by Q2 of 2012. We expect to start construction on McClymont Road bridge construction, as well as receiving environmental permits. The gas-fired power facilities will be completed on Q2 of this year. Blair Creek and Harmattan Coast Streaming, we had targeted to be on service in Q2. We expect to miss that slightly with early July. Startup commissioning may start in late June, but we won't be fully operational till July. Gordondale, looking at fourth quarter, seeing rate base growth in our Canadian utilities of about 10%. That's about $50 million, and closing the SEMCO acquisition in Q3. We'll maintain our very strong balance sheet liquidity. I think today we have over $1 billion worth of liquidity in place, so we're in a very strong position today. To conclude, it was a busy year, and this year will be a busy year. Clearly, we want to unlock shareholder value, deliver on our key power and gas projects, grow our rate base, close our SEMCO acquisition. We'll work very hard at increasing our share price. We still believe it's grossly undervalued. Just do that because Debbie thinks it's funny. And the last but not least, we have significant room later this year to grow our dividends. So on that note, I'd like to thank you for coming and be open to any questions. If not, I think there are refreshments and some light food over on the right-hand side, as well as all the officers and directors will be available for one-on-one questions after the meeting. So with that, I guess we're done. Thank you.